Hey,
Yes.
Noland, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here.
So let's start from present time. And I want
Mm.
to jump straight into what's your favorite activity that was made possible thanks to Neuralink chip?
Mm, that's tough. I have been playing a lot of video games, and that's something that I was not able to do for years, and I grew up a gamer. So that's definitely at the top of my list. I can do a lot, but having the luxury to go and play some video games when I have some free time is definitely one of my favorite things to do.
Okay, so now if you can help us dive straight into what's going on between you and your computer when you are playing a video game or writing an email or buying something at
Mm,
Amazon. I don't know.
mm.
What exactly is happening there? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so I've actually done all of those things in the last 12 hours. I've written emails, I have bought things on Amazon, funnily enough. So what's happening is there is a chip in my brain that was implanted almost a year ago. Actually, tomorrow is my 1 year anniversary for my surgery. Um,
Congrats.
Thank you, thank you. So this chip has some wires on it, threads that have electrodes, and those get placed into my motor cortex on the left side of my brain, which specifically correlates to my right hand movement. And from there, every time I attempt to move my right hand, those signals are firing. They just don't get through because of my spinal cord. So obviously I'm not moving because I'm paralyzed, but that chip is picking up those signals and interpreting them and converting them into movement on a computer through an app that Neuralink has created. So to put it simply, I think things and I get to move a cursor on a computer. It's pretty amazing.
So if you are, I don't know, shooting your rival at a game or typing a
Mm.
letter, what are you thinking of exactly?
So there are a few different ways to use the device. Right now, it is very simple, I would say. I have cursor control, and that's roughly it. So I can do most things that you could do on a computer with a cursor.
Mhm.
So if I'm playing a game, I'm really just thinking point click, shoot here, go there, things like that. If I'm writing an email, I generally use dictation software because it's much quicker still than typing.
So you're
But I
talking
can also,
rather than typing. So you're talking rather than
yes,
typing.
yes, sir. But I also use a virtual keyboard, which I will use with the cursor. And so I'll just move around and click those keys with my mind cursor as well, if you want to put it that way. So there are a lot of ways in which it can be improved, but it's still pretty incredible.
Wow. Okay. Do you want to list some of the kind of newly acquired actions that you can perform in the last year, of course?
Y- Yes, sir. So essentially, I have been given a new outlook on life in a lot of ways. This device has allowed me, it's afforded me the ability to reintegrate in a lot of ways with society just by being able to control a computer. If you think about anything you can do with a computer with a cursor, I'm able to do at this point. And that gives me a chance to, um, find work, go back to school, play games, to have things that um, I was never able to do in the last 8 years, such as just writing a text message is so easy. Like before, it would take me 10, 15 minutes. Now I can do it in seconds. And that really does make a difference when you think about trying to connect and stay involved with friends and family in the world. So I just have a lot more ability, I would say. I can control a computer, I can control a phone, and those things definitely change, where I think I'm able to go and what I'm able to do. And Neuralink is, this is just the beginning. I've only been doing this for 1 year, and I have absolutely um, grown and found a way to have positive impact on people. And Neuralink is just in its infancy, so I can only imagine where it's going to go.
Wow, this is truly exciting and inspiring. Now I wanna go a little backwards, and maybe lay out some of the backgrounds that led to this unique position. So
Mm,
could you share some of the story that led to your paralysis?
yes, sir. So when I was 22 years old, I had just finished my fourth year of university. I was working at a summer camp up in New York area, in the United States, and I was on my first day off, and I just had sort of a freak accident. I was running into a man-made lake with a couple of people, and going to jump into the lake, and I got hit in the side of the head by one of the people I was running into the lake with. I think maybe a straight elbow, maybe a knee, maybe I hit heads with someone. I'm not really sure, but immediately going into the water, I had dislocated my C4, C5, and was paralyzed. I woke up face down in the water, knew I couldn't move, and sort of the rest was history. By the grace of God, I managed to survive and make it this far. 8 years after my accident, I was sort of just lying around one day, and one of my buddies from college called me and jokingly said, "Hey, do you want to get a chip in your brain?" And I said, "Well, I've got nothing better to do." So he ran me through what Neuralink was. They had just opened the in-human trials that day, and he helped me apply over the phone, which I think is a great sort of juxtaposition of what I wasn't able to do versus what I can do now. He helped me apply over the phone because I couldn't do it. Now, if I wanted to apply for anything, I could do it all on my own. So I applied with Neuralink, and 4 months later, I was getting brain surgery.
First hear about this option, and what was going through your mind when you first hear about the possibility of getting a Neuralink implant?
When I heard about Neuralink and my buddy was running me through it on the phone, I honestly didn't have a lot of expectations. I knew that the uh, whole study itself was going to bring some opportunity, and would help me control a computer in some way. But those are where my expectations sort of ended. I tried to keep them very level, because I didn't know if I was going to be selected for a few months. But once I knew I was going to be the first participant, I didn't really have a lot of idea what this was actually going to be, what it was going to be like in any sort of way. I knew that I would be able to control a computer and maybe a phone one day and maybe connect to some other gaming devices, but that was about it. And through that, I just wanted to get started. And I figured that I would be able to obviously do a lot more than I could. And I didn't know what that would look like, but I just was along for the ride, if you will.
I imagine that Neuralink people warned you of unfortunate consequences. Maybe your family and your friends did. What were some of the warnings that were circulating around you?
Yes, so I had to read a whole slew of um, side effects. There were about 2 or 3 pages of negative side effects that could happen through
What do you
Neuralink.
remember?
Obviously, number one up there is death. You're getting brain surgery, so you never know if things are going to go well or not. It was a novel surgery. I was the first person to get the chip. I was the first person to use this robot that they had built to do the surgery. And so there were a lot of possibilities, not just death, but it's brain surgery. So you don't know if, something goes wrong in your brain. You might come out with a traumatic brain injury. There are a lot of very bad things that can happen during brain surgery. Thankfully, none of them did, and the surgical robot was more impressive than anyone could have expected. I remember one of the surgeons saying that he had never seen a less traumatized brain after brain surgery because of how accurate the robot was. It really, truly is amazing.
It is. Um, but I mean, thinking of back then, you're looking at this whole list. of dangerous stuff. Of course, death
Mhm.
is one of them. And what are you thinking of? I mean, what was the motivator? What was motivating you towards going for this procedure?
Um, I think ultimately the main motivator for me going through with this was wanting to help and make a difference, having some purpose in life, and wanting to make it better for everyone who came after me. I've always been someone who would take the risk on myself rather than put it on anyone else. I just knew that with all of these negative side effects, with all of these unknowns and this sort of fear that people might have going into this surgery, um, I wanted to be the first to show people how safe it was. And if it wasn't safe, I would rather take that risk on myself than have anyone else do it. I mean, if you think about it, I was given this opportunity, and if I would have said no and someone else would have gone first and something terrible would have happened, I would have never been able to live with myself. Not just that, I knew that if there was a possibility for me to be the first, then I wanted to be the first. There are a lot of opportunities that come with that, but it really was ultimately um, this sort of passion I had for wanting to help other people.
Mm. Can I conclude that into sense of purpose?
Yeah, it really is. It really is just
Yeah.
it gave me a sense of purpose, and that felt like my purpose in life was to be the first person, not just to be the first, but to take that on. So it really did feel like sort of a full circle moment of my life and my accident and where I was.
This is so unique. Did anyone in your immediate, your close relationships, perhaps family, try to convince you also not to do that?
Yeah, so my family was very, very supportive. Remember showing my mom the list of negative side effects, and she read about two of them and said, "I don't want to see this." She just wanted to support me and say, if you think that this is what you want to do, and I know you've done all the research, then I'll support you. So most of the people that I told at the beginning were very supportive. I wasn't allowed to tell very many people. I wasn't allowed to tell my extended family or my friends because of how secret the operation was because of Elon Musk's name and things of that nature. There was one friend that I told, and we had hours and hours of discourse about whether or not I should go through with the surgery. He was pretty adamantly against it. He did not want me to have the surgery. He didn't think it was something I should take on, the risk involved. And so we talked many times on the phone for hours about the pros and cons and why he thought I shouldn't and why I thought I should. So there were people on both sides of the aisle on that. But I'm so happy that he spoke up because I'm glad I have friends that worry about me enough to um, share their thoughts on the matter. Even if I disagree with them, I'm just glad I have people that care about me enough to speak up.
Yeah. But sense of purpose won, I understand, ultimately.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, um, how was Elon Musk involvement in this impacted your decision making, or perhaps was it your opinion of Musk that made you go ahead with it?
Yeah, Elon Musk obviously was a topic of contention, especially with my friend that didn't want me to do the surgery. He was pretty anti Elon Musk, I would say. He brought up a lot of reasons why he thinks that um, I shouldn't do the surgery or thought that I shouldn't do the surgery because Elon Musk was all for progress and nothing else. And so he was worried about me, and I appreciated that. I was less critical of Elon Musk. I think that there's some definite evidence that a lot of what is printed about him isn't necessarily the truth. I understand that there are things about Elon Musk that um, are questionable. He is a man, after all. We're all human beings. Nobody is perfect. I don't think anyone should idolize anyone else. in these situations. Just because he is successful and powerful doesn't mean that he needs to be hero worshipped. But I do appreciate everything that he's done, and I definitely think it weighed on my mind in this whole process. Just the magnitude of things he's been able to accomplish and what I've seen with how much he cares about humanity. I thought that it was a match made in heaven. And I was really excited to get to work with him. And, his name brings a lot of notoriety to the study. So I thought that the study would get a lot of funding and we would be able to do a lot of very, very cool things.
That's very interesting consideration. Did you ever get in personal contact with him?
I did. I did. I spoke with him before the surgery, and I spoke with him after the surgery. He um, was there in my hospital room. I was a little bit drugged up on anesthesia, so I don't remember a ton of it. I do remember saying as he walked in, "Hi, I'm Nolan. You might have heard of me," sort of thing. I just kind of cracked some jokes. It's just sort of who I am, and then. A few months after my surgery, I met him again in Austin, Texas, at his Gigafactory, his Tesla factory there, and we sat down and had a conversation about Neuralink and some of his other projects. So yeah, I've had some very nice conversations with him.
Okay, so could you walk us through your brain surgery a little bit? I mean, what is it exactly that was inserted inside your brain, and how was this surgery performed?
Yes, so my surgery, which happened about a year ago, was again novel. The chip that Neuralink was using, the Neuralink chip, is the first that's ever been put in a human. The robot that they were using to do the surgery, would be used on a human for the first time. So essentially, what happened is it's a craniectomy or craniotomy. They cut out a hole in my skull, and then this was the surgeon that was doing this. Um, there were, I guess, a bit of there were steps that the surgeon would do, and then steps that the robot would do. So the surgeon cut a hole in my skull. Then the robot was lined up with a computer with my brain, with scans that they had taken, months prior to make sure everything lined up, and they mapped out where they were going to put everything. And this robot inserted 64 threads into my motor cortex on the left side of my brain, specifically correlating to the right side of my hand. And on each one of those threads are 16 electrodes, which measure neuron spikes. So every time your brain fires in a neuron spike, one of these electrodes will pick up that signal and translate it into whatever you would like to map it to, honestly. And so this surgery was supposed to last between 4 to 6 hours, and the robot accomplished it in less than two. So it was very, very successful. So it's a chip the size of about a quarter. It's mounted to my skull, and the surgery was very, very easy, very clean, and again, extremely, extremely promising for what they're trying to do in the future. And 2 hours is impressive, but they're trying to get it down to much, much quicker.
Wow. And what was the first thing you did after you woke up?
So when I woke up, a lot of people came into my room and were surrounding me, asking how I was. I remember one of the first things I did was play a little joke on my mom, kind of a mean joke on my mom. She walked in after I had been woken up and I was still a little groggy, and she said, "How are you? Are you feeling okay?" And I looked up at her and I said, "Who are you?" And she was not very happy about that. Tears started flowing. She asked the doctors, like, "What did you do? Fix him?" And then I kind of smiled cheekily and I said, "I'm just joking, Mom. Like, I'm okay." Very mean joke to play on her, yes, I know. But it was just to show her that I was okay. Brain surgery is a very serious, serious thing, and I wanted to bring some levity to the whole situation. I'm not sure she appreciated it, but I thought it was great. And then a big group of Neuralink guys came in the room and they turned on my implant for the first time and they showed me my neuron spikes firing in real time.
Wow. And after they hooked you up with a computer, what was the first application or use case that you tried it on?
Yeah, so we played a lot of different little games at the beginning to just test how good the um, cursor control was. But one of the first things that I wanted to do was play chess. I'm a big chess fan. I have chess on in the background as we speak. Um, and so that was one of the first things I did was I got on chess.com and uh, played some games with one of the Neuralink guys, played some speed chess, and it was very, very fun. It was something I hadn't been able to do in a long time.
Wow. That must have been really exciting. So could you just tell us, could you tell me a little bit about the learning curve? I mean, were there any funny mishaps during this whole process?
I would say there's less of a learning curve than people might expect.
Hmm.
Um, it was very, very intuitive. There wasn't a whole lot of learning involved outside of the implant learning. It really did, um, you know, learn in a way that I would have never expected, just how quickly it learned. For me, it was very, very simple. There wasn't a whole lot of learning that I needed to do. It was really just calibrating a cursor like anyone would calibrate a cursor, and then, fire away. You get to go and play around on a computer. It
Wow.
was it was much simpler than people might expect.
Can the implant pick up on your thoughts about moving it even before you want to do it, actually? Just
Yeah,
when you
so
think
if you
about doing
imagine
that?
Yeah, sorry. So if you imagine when you want to move your hand, move any part of your body, when you go to do that action, that signal that your brain has to fire, send down, has already been sent all the way through your nervous system and come all the way back. So it's almost as if your brain knows what you're going to do before you know yourself, and you don't have to think about it. It just happens after a while with the Neuralink, it starts to do exactly the same thing, where you want to move a cursor in a certain way. You want to go left or right. And before you even think about going left or right, it understands what you're trying to do and um, interprets that signal and does it before you even go to think about it. It really is just the most impressive device.
Wow. So does it mean that you have, in that sense, a deeper and faster connection to technology than I do? I mean, are there things that you can actually do better than I do?
Yeah, yes and no, I would say. I definitely do have a connection and a window into more impressive, um, more impressive, how do I put it?
Mm.
I'm able to accomplish things that I think other people might not be able to accomplish quicker. Um, I'm not sure that it's at its final stage, though. I'm actually pretty sure it's not. I have the very first implant, and I can only imagine where it's going to go from here. I think it's going to get much, much better. But if you think about just needing to um, do anything on a computer, when you're playing games or things, I have visions of Neuralink, the Neuralink, having basically its own league in a lot of these situations because it's faster than you might be able to accomplish on your own. Again, if you go back to that visualization that of a signal going all the way to your hand and having to come back up, mine just has to go straight into the Neuralink. It'll be much quicker, and I think that that will help me accomplish things in a much faster way than a lot of other people. We'll see. It's in its infancy, so I think it only has room to grow.
So let's imagine we're both fighting each other on Fortnite, okay? And we're standing
Yeah,
face to face, and we're thinking about shooting the other guy on the exact same millisecond. Would you win?
I think so. I think so. I'm almost positive. Um,
So you're
It's
actually enjoying
almost,
an unfair advantage over
yeah.
in action games.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been playing much. I know that one of the other participants, P2, plays a bit more what you would call first person shooters than I play, but um it definitely is an unfair advantage in a lot of ways because of how quick everything can be accomplished in your brain. And with the Neuralink, I'm not sure that it will be allowed in a lot of arenas in the future as it gets better.
Wow, that's something that's to be taken into consideration. But
Yeah.
could you go back to the first time that you actually felt this control over a computer for the first
Mm.
time? How does it feel like?
So there's a difference between attempted movement and imagined movement. The first time I attempted to move the cursor, which means I moved my hand, attempted to move my hand, and the cursor moved, it felt natural. It felt like it worked as it should. I know that the signals also work in my brain. They just don't get through my spinal cord. So when this device is picking up those signals, I think it's very, very obvious what should happen. I should be able to move the cursor in that fashion. But then there's something called imagine movement. And imagine movement is not attempting to move any body part, but just thinking cursor go here or there. And the first time I ever moved a cursor in that way, I was giddy for a whole day. I could not stop smiling because that really did sort of blow my mind. It shouldn't work like it did. It shouldn't be possible to just think, I want the cursor to go left, right, up, down. I want to click here or click there. And then it happened. That just, it's so sci-fi. But that's exactly what was happening. So I was um I was just absolutely over the moon the first time I controlled the cursor like that.
And is this the way you're controlling it ever since?
Yes, I switch between attempted and imagined movements. It depends on what sort of task I'm doing, but I definitely do it very frequently, and it's never lost on me how amazing it is.
Is there a way you could show us some of your actions on the computer?
Yeah, I think I could share my screen and show you
Okay.
all what I'm doing. This little thing on the left side of the screen is my cursor.
Hmm.
This little round bit, and
And
so
and what kind of control do you hold over it right now?
so right now I am using what's called our dwell cursor, which means that it will just click if I hold still for a certain amount of time. So I do have like regular clicks where I can click left, right, and things, but I am choosing not to use it at the moment.
So what other activity would you normally do with your computer that you
Yeah,
can
so there's that. This is my X. I'll do that, post something, and then I do a lot of reading. There's my music as well. And here is my the games that I like to play. This is my Steam account, so I play tons of little fun games on here. All sorts of things. So yeah, this is generally what I do. And then here's my Link app. So this is Eve. This is what I've made my implant. This is my Link app. So this is how I get all sorts of Neuralink control over the cursor. So I would calibrate my cursor to make it a bit better. Um, I do body mapping, which is just data collection essentially for the team. So right now it is, um, face mapping. So I will do different face um, movements, actions with my face, and they will see what the neural signals look like. Um, Here's our little research tab, which is where I play. I do my data collection and I play WebGrid when I want to play. So this is WebGrid. This is just a way to show how good cursor control is.
Oh.
So the world record on the left over there was 4.6-ish when I started in Neuralink a year ago, and I beat that on the first day. That's how good Neuralink is. I think the world record right now I hold is somewhere around 9 point something. So over double what the other best BCI was capable of doing. So yeah, there's kind of a lot that I can do with this.
This is astonishing. So all that we see right now is you imagining or wanting to move your hand in accordance with the cursor?
That's exactly right. I can just think where I want the cursor to go, and it'll go. Um, this is essentially what I do every day in and day out.
Let's talk about this year that I've gone through. We heard that 85% of your electrodes are malfunctioning now, and still everything is working?
Yeah, so about a month after my implant, I saw very, very poor control of the cursor. It seemed like performance had fallen off a cliff. Um, performance had just gone down drastically. And what we found was that the threads in my brain were moving still. We call it thread retraction. So the threads were getting pulled out of my brain, in some cases, even pushed into my brain a little farther. And what that did was misplace the electrodes in my brain. They weren't at the right level in my brain to pick up the correct signals. So, I have about 15%. They say plus or minus 10%. So it could be as little as 5%. It could be as much as 25% of the electrodes in my brain still that are picking up good signals. What I mean by good signals is they're basically 15 plus or minus 10% of the electrodes are doing something that I want them to do. They are actually helping me in some way, helping me control the computer. When they stabilized my signals after we realized this, I thought that I would never be able to control the implant like I was before, but I actually surpassed the levels that I was achieving before the thread retraction. They adjusted some of the software, and I was able to achieve better results than I was before, which is, in my mind, a triumph. It really is just one of the most impressive feats that I think Neuralink has accomplished. If I'm able to do this with 15% of the electrodes, what could someone do with 100%? It really is just a very exciting prospect.
What can be done? I mean, what are you looking for next in terms of upgrading your capabilities?
There's a lot. There's a lot that I think can still be explored. Right now, I have really good cursor control. Now, I think the next step is really good, say, keyboard control, where you can um, type exactly like anyone else would type on a keyboard, or maybe even better. Maybe you wouldn't need to type out keys, like letters for words. Maybe you could think whole words or whole sentences or whole ideas or thoughts, and it would pop up. I think that that is something that can be looked forward to in the future. I think it's definitely possible. I don't think that is as far-fetched as people might believe, though I know it's going to take some time. I don't think it's something that we're going to accomplish in, say, the near future, but I do think it's possible.
So that's the next phase you're looking into, gaining control, access over a keyboard. What would be the next stage? Perhaps a robotic arm?
Yeah, there is a robotic arm that is being floated around. We'll see if I get to play around with it, if I can control it. Um, I think that is just it goes to show that the Neuralink is capable of connecting to anything with the Bluetooth signal. I think that someday every device that's manufactured, just as it is Alexa compatible, will be Neuralink compatible. So it's an exciting future.
Wow, I'm right now I'm kind of imagining you like, entering the space, hall, classroom, factory, office, whatever, and just gaining control or access over whatever devices around you via Bluetooth, via whatever.
Yep, I think it's possible. I think one day you'll be able to control, say, robots. You'll be able to control Cars, you'll be able to control TVs, lights, doors. You'll be able to control any device that has Bluetooth. Just as long as you can connect to it, has a Bluetooth signal, you'll be able to control it.
Beyond the technical capabilities, how has this experience changed your perspective of the future?
So I wasn't really in the tech field before Neuralink. The neuroscience or the tech field, I didn't really have a lot of input. I wasn't an expert in any way, shape, or form. Now I feel as if I understand where this technology and where neuroscience could go in the future. I think that Neuralink really is on the verge of doing something that can change the course of human history. I believe that it can cure a lot of diseases that have plagued humanity since the beginning of time, essentially. I believe that it will allow us to evolve in a lot of ways, just interpersonally and what we're able to accomplish with technology. Neuralink essentially is a tool for us to use. It's a great piece of technology that I think will greatly impact our productivity and how we connect with one another. I really do have a lot of faith in what it can accomplish as a piece of hardware, as a piece of tech, as a tool for us to use. And then neuroscience. I mean, we're learning so much about the brain. I constantly tell people that in the first month of what we did, you could have filled a whole room of PhDs with what we had learned or the data that we had collected. So it's been a year now. I think that we're definitely learning a lot, and people will learn much, much more in the future as they dive into the data.
So you're now hooked with Neuralink, hooked with Elon Musk. What if, they tell you, listen, Noland, it has been a great year. We've learned so much. We've decided to cut it off, stop the support, maybe retract the whole device. What would you say?
It's not a fun outlook. It's not something I think about a lot, but what I've come to believe when I had the issue with the thread retraction a year ago was that I was able to survive as a quadriplegic before Neuralink, and I'll be able to do it after Neuralink. Obviously, it'll be harder. It'll be hard to lose this capability, but it is not what drives my life. It is not the only thing that I have in my life.
Mhm.
My life doesn't revolve around Neuralink, so it's definitely something that I'm grateful for. But if they decide to kick me out of the study, or funding gets pulled, or Neuralink goes in a different direction, then I will hopefully gracefully exit and um, try to do something else with my life.
I imagine that lots of paralyzed people have been asking for your advice, for your experience, and I imagine you tell them all, go for it if you have a chance. Am I correct?
Yes, I am a very big proponent of anyone who has disabilities, especially, to hope for this device and um, to expect that it will change their lives positively for the better.
Would you recommend a healthy person, a person that is not dealing with disabilities, to go ahead with such a surgery?
I don't see any reason why not. I think that if someone wants to get it and they understand the risk, then they should be allowed to. I think it is a very cool device and something that a lot of people can benefit from. So I don't have an issue with it. There are obviously a lot of ethical concerns that arise when you start doing these sorts of surgeries on healthy people. I think that is something that definitely needs to be discussed and thoroughly thought through before we start making those sort of decisions for, um, regular people, I would say.
Yeah, and if I asked for your advice, say I have the opportunity to undergo the same surgery in 5 years, what do you think you're gonna tell me in 2030? Go for it.
Yeah, I would ask why you're getting it, what your
Because I'm
reasons
jealous
are.
of your control over devices.
Yeah.
And there are so many things I want to do, and I'm just, too lazy to move my fingers and do all those tasks.
Mhm.
But it seems like you only need to think about them.
Yeah, I would say go for it. I would say if that's what you want to do, go for it. I mean, you're an adult. You're allowed to do whatever you want to do with your body. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be allowed to.
And if we will talk in 5 years, what do you expect for yourself? What capabilities would you have? How would your life look like if you can control it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure what my life look like, what it will look like in 5 years. I think I have been surprised at where my life has gone even in the last year. So it's sort of impossible for me to outlook what's going to happen in 5 years. I think I'm just going to see where God wants to put me. I need to see what God has in store for me. I have ideas of what I would like to do. I would like to be successful in a lot of different ways. I'd like to find a way to make a positive impact on the world in a much more hands-on manner, starting a nonprofit, helping people in whatever way I can, and then hopefully finding work, being able to become a real functioning, contributing member of society again. Excuse me. Um, I don't know. There's a lot that I want to do. Maybe getting a degree. That would be great. Neuroscience is something that I'm definitely interested in now. So there's a lot of things that I want to do, but we'll see what God has in store for me.
I wonder, has this whole process, I mean, you're a believer, right?
Yes.
And I wonder if this whole process changed something in the way you perceive relationships between belief, God, and science.
It hasn't. I don't believe that God and science are at odds with one another. I don't believe that they clash like some other people may. I believe that they are actually um, very, very incredibly intertwined. I believe that if you believe in God, then there's no reason why you shouldn't believe in science. And I don't believe that believing in science means that you can't believe in God. I think this whole opportunity, this whole um, undertaking with Neuralink has only helped me grow in my relationship with God, which may surprise people, but I don't see why they have to be so opposed to one another.
Well, may I tell you, I mean, you're a complete inspiration right now, and maybe the best example I've ever seen to someone who turns lemons into lemonade.
Thank you. I'm not sure that's true. I think that there are plenty of other people who have um, done much more with their lives and are much more accomplished and are much better examples of those sorts of things. I'm just trying to do my part, but I really appreciate you saying that. That's very kind.
Thank you so much for being with us, Nolan, and I wish you good health and, accomplishing all your amazing dreams.
Thank you very much. You as well. I appreciate y'all reaching out to me and asking me to be on. Um, and I really do hope that um, all of us are again, like you said, healthy and successful in the future. So I just really appreciate you reaching out.